Hello viewers, it's Adam Franklin here from Blue Wire Media. I have the very great pleasure of being joined by John Lee Dumas, the host of Entrepreneur on Fire, a hugely successful business podcast, and his accent and enthusiasm are one of the best I've come across. John, are you ready to ignite?
I am prepared to burn this house down, Adam.
I am so pleased to hear it. Now, you've burst onto the podcasting scene with your podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire, with one podcast every single day. Mate, what are your monthly downloads at the moment?
We generate 450,000 unique downloads every month, and that number just continues to grow, Adam, because of our daily format. The snowball just keeps getting bigger.
That's phenomenal. Now, I've learned from you that technology is not an excuse. You know, all you need is one of these, a good quality mic, like a Blue Yeti mic, or the one that you've got in front of you there, a Skype call recorder, or GarageBand, whatever you choose to use. Of course, we can all read about this in your book, Podcast Launch. I don't want to go into necessarily the technology of it all, but the real hurdle obviously isn't technology. There's other hurdles that we're facing, for people looking to get into podcasting but can't quite make that leap. Why did you get into podcasting?
So I got into podcasting, Adam, because I wanted to build a massive audience of passionate entrepreneurs who are looking to take their entrepreneurial leap. And I'm not a writer. I never have been. I had never been a broadcaster. I'd never taken communications, but I knew that I liked talking, and I found it easier to talk than to write. So I decided, you know what? Blogging is kind of a red ocean strategy right now because there's like a million blogs that go live every month or something. And podcasting was a little more blue ocean. It was just a little more of a barrier, not technological like you said, but just kind of mindset of actually getting behind a microphone and speaking to the world. So I knew there was a little more of an open blue water strategy. So I decided to dive into it and really bring people, like yourself, Adam, who are a phenomenal past guest, onto Entrepreneur on Fire to share their journeys, which are both inspiring and really passionate for, multitude of reasons.
And what hurdles, if any, did you have to overcome in order to make the leap into podcasting?
The main hurdle was the imposter syndrome that every single person in the world has. I actually talk a lot about our president, Obama, having the imposter syndrome because he definitely does. He wakes up every single morning, he puts his tie on, and he says, who am I to be leading the most powerful country in the world? He has that imposter syndrome like every single person does. And I had that as well, Adam. I was like, who am I to be talking to people about being an entrepreneur when, I've had both failures and successes in the entrepreneurial journey, but by no means was I Richard Branson or Mark Cuban. Like, why should they be listening to me? So that was a hurdle I had to get over. And I did that really by just saying, you know what? I'm just going to be a conduit for great guests, like yourself, like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Tim Ferriss, to come onto my show and just through Entrepreneur on Fire, share their failures, their aha moments, their successes. So that's kind of how I shifted my mindset. I kind of tricked myself because I had a massive fear of failure. I had a massive imposter syndrome, but I was able to get over it with that little trick.
The imposter syndrome, I really like that idea because before our interview, we'd been having a bit of a chat, and about a minute before we went live, I asked John how everything was going, and he said, yeah, pretty good this week. I've interviewed Tim Ferriss, Seth Godin, and Chris Brogan, and we've had over 100,000 downloads this month. And all of a sudden I went, oh my God. And I felt like exactly that imposter joining such big names. But what I really like about your show is that you get the big names and then you get some more, I don't know what you call up and coming or unknown type people as well. And that mix is really
Under
great.
the radar.
Under the radar. That's a lovely way of putting it. But how did you go about approaching some of these big names before you had this, before you had this podcasting fame and this following?
So fortunately for me, Adam, I did do one thing right amidst a lot of things wrong when I first started. And that was I got a mentor, Jamie Tardy of The Eventual Millionaire, who was a very successful podcaster and had been for a number of years. And the first thing she told me to do was go down to a conference and just engage. And so fortunately for me, just 2 weeks after hiring her as my mentor, she was speaking at one of the biggest conferences in the US on social media, which is called Blog World by New Media Expo. So I went down to New York City, I got my ticket, I went to this conference, and I got to see these incredible entrepreneurs, these lifestyle by design entrepreneurs speaking on stage about things that they were passionate about and about businesses that they had created. And I was just in awe. And Jamie was one of those speakers. And so because of that, I was able to go to the speakers event after the actual conference was over. And so there I was at a bar drinking with the Pat Flynn's and the Derek Halperns and the Corbett Bar of Think Traffics side by side. And I was able to look at them, Adam, and say, hey guys, I was really admiring your presentation on stage. It was incredibly impressive. I'm actually starting a little venture called Entrepreneur on Fire. This is what I'm looking to do. Will you be one of my first guests? So I went down to these conferences, Adam. I engaged with these great entrepreneurs. I looked them in the face and thanked them for what they gave to me, which was a great presentation, and then was very genuine and asked them to come on my show. And I was sitting there right in front of them. It wasn't just a cold email. It wasn't anything along those lines like a tweet or a Facebook message. It was me standing there. They could see that I was serious. And so I got my first few yeses from that engagement, from that interaction. And then I was able to utilize those names as I went forward as social proof. And that just helped me get more and more guests on as I continued forward.
I'm finding that more and more that people are saying that the secret to online success is actually going offline, meeting face-to-face, pressing the flesh, and really forming those important relationships, in real life.
Well, let me break in there for 1 second because it's such a great point. Back in the day, Adam, that was the only place to meet people was face-to-face. That was the only opportunity we had. Now people can hide behind Twitter, Facebook, any multitude of social media or email. And because of that, they do. And so the few people that step out from behind the computer screen and actually go out, it's actually, now that it's such a rarity, it becomes even more valuable. And so the people that do step from behind that computer screen and make the effort to go to these conferences and shake the hands of these great entrepreneurs, that is where relationships are formed.
Thank you. Now, podcasting is your business now. You've been going for over 12 months. And you've made a decision to publish your earnings on your blog, which I find tremendously admirable, very, very confronting, I'm sure, at the start.
My accountant doesn't think this out.
But I was just checking your online reports yesterday. $88,978 last month in profit. Tell us, where's this money coming from, and I guess how big is the audience of people that are becoming paid subscribers or paid members of your products?
Sure. I absolutely just wanted to take that transparent approach, Adam, because I saw people in my industry like Pat Flynn publishing income reports and what he does, which is passive income for businesses. And I was like, I want to do that for the podcasting world. People love Pat for his transparency. So why can't I do that for podcasting? So I started publishing it just last month. So now we have 2 income reports published. We started on our 1-year anniversary. And anybody that really wants to get details, I actually even have a podcast where I read the income report as well. So you can get it via audio or via our blog at eofire.com/income. And that will take you right to our income reports. But, just really quickly over this interview here, we make about $40,000-ish per month on sponsorships. So that's a big, huge part of our revenue for Entrepreneur on Fire.
Just to clarify for our viewers, is that sponsors? Is that people that are paying to have their names mentioned throughout your show and paying to be appearing on your blog?
Absolutely, it's just sponsors who are paying to sponsor Entrepreneur on Fire episodes. For instance, I have Carbonite, who does online backup for computers. And so they will sponsor Entrepreneur on Fire. So they'll get a 15-second, what's called a pre-roll, and then a 60-second mid-roll, where it'll be me, the host, talking about their product, why I like it, why entrepreneurs should utilize it, and maybe a story of a time that it really helped me. And then so they'll pay per episode that they're sponsoring, and that breaks out to about $1,200 to $1,500 per episode that I'm generating with my sponsors. And you multiply that by 30, And that's where we got to. I think in the month of October, we brought in just under 40,000. I think it was 39,400 and change revenue through sponsorships. We also just launched Podcasters Paradise, which is a community to create, grow, and monetize your podcast. Because one thing, Adam, that you learn when you actually grow an audience that you have and that I'm currently doing at Entrepreneur on Fire is that they tell you what they need. And my audience was telling me that they needed a place to learn how to podcast, a place to interact with other podcasters, and a place to learn from today's top podcasters. So we created, because of those emails that we got, because of those pain points that our listeners were having, that our audience has, we created Podcasters Paradise, which is exactly that. It's a community with video tutorials, with a community forum, and with monthly webinars with today's top podcasters. And in the month of October, we actually launched October 31st. But in the month of October, during pre-launch, we raised over $35,000, or we generated over $35,000 in pre-launch sales. And then as we sit right now, we actually have over 200 members, lifetime members, within Podcasters Paradise, and over $55,000 in total revenue. And that all came, Adam, from what our audience, our listeners were telling us they needed, and then we just created it. So those are two of our really major income streams. And then we have a bunch of other smaller ones, which I do get into detail on the income reports. But that's the beauty of building a large audience, is they tell you what they need, and you can develop multiple streams of income to really diversify.
And finally, John, what's the plan for 2014?
World domination. I want to come and I want to come to Australia in 2014. I was actually asked to come speak at Fast Web Formula that James Schranko is putting on, which I would love to do. It's just unfortunately not going to work out timing for me because I'm speaking in the Philippines during that month, and then again back here in San Diego, and the timing just didn't work out. But I actually, and I'm not just saying this because you're Australian, and I'm sure a lot of your audience is, but Australia, New Zealand, that's a part of the world I've never traveled to, because I've done Southeast Asia, I've done Central America, I've done a lot of the world. I've done the Middle East as an officer in the Army, but I've never done that part of the world. I'd love to get out there. I have a really disproportionate number of my past guests are Australian, because you guys are just such wonderful entrepreneurs with the phenomenal entrepreneurial mindset that I just need to get over there and really see for myself what's in the water that you guys are drinking, because I need some of that.
Oh, that's a great wrap for Australians. Thanks. And we run a couple of events, so hopefully the timing can work out and we can get you over as well.
I'd love to.
Now, where can everyone go to find out more about yourself and your amazing podcast?
So our headquarters is eofire.com. It's really simple. That's where we have everything that goes on. All of our podcast show notes, all of our blog entries, our income reports, our recommended resources. If you're an iTunes or Stitcher or whatever you are for a podcast listener, you can just type in either my name, John Lee Dumas, or Entrepreneur on Fire, and you will get to the podcast.
Thank you very much for your time and input today. Thanks on behalf of our viewers, and thanks on behalf of the Australian members of Fire Nation. It's been an absolute pleasure, John.
Thanks, Adam. I love you guys.
Thank you.